Hey, what's going on guys? Top Tier Gaming here, and today I have a discussion video talking about what are the most powerful trial decks in Weiss Schwarz. So this was actually sort of an idea from someone in the comments, which by the way, I absolutely love when people leave suggestions in the comments on what videos to do, because I love hearing what you guys want to see so I can actually create them. But yeah, this is going to be a top 5 list talking about each trial deck from 5 to 1, what makes the trial deck good in my opinion, why it's so strong. There's a couple of criteria, like just because the trial deck may make the main deck better, like maybe there's a card in the trial deck that's so good they run it in the main deck, doesn't mean that that's the reason the trial deck is popular or the trial deck is strong. But it does help a lot, because if like the competitive version of a deck does play cards from the trial deck, those cards are usually just good enough to be in the main deck. So yeah, there's a couple more criteria, but I'm just gonna get started into the list, starting with number 5. So going through each of the trial deck, I'm gonna put some of the trial deck cards on the screen as I sort of talk about them or talk about the deck in general and what makes the deck good. And number 5 is actually Goblin Slayer. Goblin Slayer, the main set, is really strong, like obviously, but that doesn't necessarily translate to the trial deck being like the best, right? It does have good cards, like it does have a pretty good drop search that some main builds choose to play, because drop searches are good, so that's a plus. And it has like a good secondary effect too, so that's definitely advantageous. It has like a really good level 3 game ender as well. Like the Goblin Slayer at level 3 is really good. He's climax comboless game ending when he reverses a character, you know, pay 3 to burn 2. This is a powerful card. So the trial deck has a game ender. That's a pretty big criteria to have for being a good trial deck in my opinion. The trial deck also has a healer. That's another one. If you have a game ender and a healer, in my opinion, you're already like a pretty strong trial deck. And that's why Goblin Slayer is number 5, because it doesn't have a runner, right? That's another big criteria, is having like a runner or really good level 0 game. This one doesn't have that sort of strength. The biggest thing about the Goblin Slayer trial deck, and I think it's pretty obvious, is the Torch. Torch is very, very powerful. It's like a brainstorm type card, but it's also a backup, so you can use it to mitigate damage, like incoming damage. You know, like you activate it as a backup, reveal 1, it's a character, you add it to your hand, and you've essentially like mitigated 1 damage. It's really good to get further down to cancels. We all know how good Torch is if we're big into this game. It's one of the reasons I had to like put it on the list in general, just because Torch is really powerful, right? So I think it's really hard not to put the Goblin Slayer trial deck on this list, when that card is sort of what makes Goblin Slayer, even the competitive version. That's what makes Goblin Slayer. Most builds play it, even I've seen Standby List play it, the Priestess version play it. Not so much 8-shot, for obvious reasons, you're not running the Torch combo, but yeah, that is why Goblin Slayer is number 5 on this list, is Torch, healer, game ender. It's got a lot of good stuff. So next up for number 4 is actually Summer Pockets. So when I was doing research deciding what trial decks I think are best, I actually didn't know anything about the Summer Pockets trial deck. I don't really know much about Summer Pockets in general. It did just win the North American Nationals for WGP, and I watched a profile and I sort of get how the deck works now. But the trial deck I was completely oblivious to, and I was reading the cards and I was like, wow, this trial deck has a lot of good stuff going for it. So it has a runner. That's a huge plus. Having a runner in a trial deck to me is very, very powerful, because runners are so good, and you know, that's just crazy when a trial deck gets one. I mean, nowadays we have trial deck pluses and runners are very common in them. Not very common, but common enough. So yeah, having a runner is great. It also has just like oversized zeros as well. Like it has a 3/5 that when your opponent plays a climax, it sends itself to waiting room. That's almost hardly a demerit. It can be, but it's also a form of reverse denial for opponent's climax combos, which is very, very good. So an overstated character with a demerit, like there are times where it's bad, I guess, but it's most of the time just going to be good. So its level 0 game looks strong. It is running Wind Trigger and Pants, which that's a pretty good climax lineup in my opinion. Climax lineups do play a role when I'm sort of thinking what the really good trial decks are, because it's sort of, if you bought 2 trial decks and put them together, how strong would it be as its own deck? And then Summer Pockets, its level 3 game is also impressive. It has just quite a few good options. So I'm just realizing I said it has wind earlier. It has shot, which I really like shot. Shot is one of my, probably actually one of my favorite triggers, honestly. I think it's really underrated, really good. But yeah, it's level 3, is really powerful. It has first of all, it has a healer and a game ender. Again, that's a huge benefit. And again, the level 3 healer combos with the shot, and it's sort of a way to deal with standby decks and like bodyguard stuff. So it has like an innate out to things like Bunny Girl Senpai, which is really good. And then its game ender, which is found in blue, is climax comboless game ending, and it's just really strong altogether. And that is just really good level 3 lineup, really good level 0 lineup. And at level 1, it has a like Shimakaze type climax combo with the pants, which very powerful. So like if you combine 2 Summer Pockets trial decks, I'd say you actually have a really strong like deck on your hand. Not as strong as like the meta build, of course, but like we're talking about trial decks here. And when you have like Shimakaze climax combo, really powerful level 0s, and a good level 3 lineup, I'm gonna have to put it at least on number 4 on strong trial decks. So number 3 on this list is actually Gun Gale Online Alternative, GGO. This is actually a really strong trial deck. It has a runner, so again, that's just super high on the list. Its climax lineup is good. It has a gate, which, when your trial deck has a gate, that's already pretty advantageous. Gate's just a great trigger. The main reason I would say putting GGO at number 3 is just how good its level 1 climax combo is as like a sort of meta call to a lot of decks and a lot of strategies. And it's just a +1 uninteractive climax combo. Those are very powerful. So it's a 1/0/3K. When it attacks with the gate, you check the top card of your deck. If it's a character, you add it to your hand, right? That's uninteractive +1, very powerful. And then it's also a level 1 bomb. So it outs like a lot of decks that tend to have wall strategies or just bombs are good at level 1. They can out like a lot of decks. And uninteractive +1 on a gate combo, also very good. The level 1 combo for Gun Gale is, in my opinion, why I put it at number 3 on this list, because so many like meta builds of that deck do play that combo just because how good the combo is. It's very, very powerful, and it's just, if you combine 2 trial decks of GGO, you have that combo, you got your runners, that's already just like a huge advantage for that trial deck. And I think that's one of the reasons GGO had to be number 3. For GGO, I don't think its level 3s are like the best thing ever, but it does have a healer and a game ender. So again, that's a huge plus. And it also runs, gate and book, so it's got multiple plus triggers. Very nice. If you bought 2 of the trial deck, you could get like 4 gate, 4 book. At least I hope. I hope there's 2 of each of them in the trial deck. I'm not sure on the exact ratios, I just know what cards are in the trial decks. But yeah, so you got a healer, a game ender, you have your runner, and a very powerful level 1 climax combo. That's why GGO just overall had to be number 3 on the list. Number 2 on this list is going to actually be the Sneaker Bunko trial deck. This actually has some really good options. It has a gate trigger, which is very powerful. And the gate trigger is probably the reason it is number 2, is because this has a very powerful climax combo, and it's one I've seen in some builds of Sneaker Bunko because it is really good. It combos with the 1/0 Yuki that is 5k base, and it's sort of just the Amelia combo, but for a trial deck. You have to have 5 or less stock, but it's just, this is such a powerful climax combo. Like, it's so good, being able to like delete bad deck states and things like that. It's just like, while the GGO combo is good, it's uninteractive +1 as well. This is like a more selective +1. It mills through your deck. I think it's just a little better in that sense, while the other one's a bomb. So I guess in that sense, there's a little bit to compare why is Sneaker Bunko number 2 while GGO was number 3. It kind of also has something to do with the level 3s in Sneaker Bunko. The level 3 Haruhi that's in the Sneaker Bunko trial deck, it's not only a healer, but a climax comboless game ender on the same card. So while some trial decks, they have a healer and a game ender, it's very good. Having both of the effects on one card is bonus points. This is a very, very good level 3. So, just being able to heal on play and have the option of game end, that's just very powerful. Also, it has good options at the level 0 game. Like, there are some cards. Sneaker Bunko is a wild set, so I'm probably not showing as many cards on the screen because I just don't feel comfortable putting some of those cards on screen. But it has like some good level 0s. It has like a pseudo Akatsuki type effect. It's not as good as Akatsuki or near good as Akatsuki. But it does have like reveal. You can mill through bad deck states. It's also a 500 in front assist. It's pretty good. Overall, like Sneaker Bunko is just a very powerful trial deck. You combine two of them, you have a lot of good options. It has a top check X Aqua. It just has a lot of things going for it. So, in my opinion, Sneaker Bunko is number 2. But honestly, like 5 through 2, there's like a blur. Like, it's hard to decide which one is like better amongst them. Honestly, the whole list is kind of like that because all of these trial decks are so good. It's just like the small things and where I've decided which trial deck is better. Honestly, I think very easily on this list, Summer Pockets could have been number 1 or anything like that. Goblin Slayer could have been higher up. It's just the way I sort of ordered them, right? But all of these trial decks are very, very powerful. The list just had to be a certain way. But yeah, so I'm saying all this because we're about to finally get into number 1 on this list. So getting into number 1, I have chosen Steins Gate, the trial deck, as number 1. So, you know, I'm sure a bunch of people had their ideas of what would be number 1 on this list, and maybe Steins Gate surprised, maybe it's not. Here are the reasons I think Steins Gate is, I think, the best trial deck if I'm just looking at it. It has a runner, which is very good. Again, bonus points. A lot of these trial decks have had runners, but when you have a runner, very powerful. It has a Shimakaze Climax combo, comboing with Wind Trigger. Wind Trigger for a trial deck, I think, is very good, because if you were to play a trial deck in like a competitive standpoint, the main things you need to worry about are like super big threats that competitive decks have, like bodyguards, like certain assists, standby decks. Wind Trigger just lets you deal with those, so that's super powerful. And having a Shimakaze Climax combo on it is very good. And then it has another level 0 that's very good besides the runner. It has the Mayuri, which is top check hand filter, which is very powerful. We love hand filter effects. Like if your set has a drop search, it's really good. If your set has a hand filter, like top check hand filter, depending on what its secondary effect is, I think it's actually better. And the Mayuri's effect is great. It's on attack, give a character 1500. That's a very powerful effect. When you have a Shimakaze Climax combo, like the synergy in this trial deck is actually very good in that sense. And then it has 2 good level 3s. It has a level 3 healer in the Kurisu that is not really a game ender, I wouldn't call it, but it does have soul manipulation, which is pretty powerful. And then it has a Mayuri, which is definitely a game ender. Climax comboless, restander. Again, very powerful. And you're working with Pants and Wind. Great Climax lineup. It has just such good synergy, the deck does. And for that reason, I chose it to be number 1. Like I said, on this list, I could have easily seen Summer Pockets being number 1. I could have seen Sneaker Bunko being number 1. It was hard to decide what order these trial decks should be placed in. I think these are 5 of some of the best trial decks. Maybe not completely. There could be a trial deck I missed that's just really, really good. I know the Gurren Lagann trial deck's actually kind of decent. There are trial deck. I don't know every trial deck, so if you have a different opinion on what the best trial decks are, you can leave those down in the description below. Not the description, the comments. I work the description. I'll be sure to read them and see what you guys think. Because trial decks in Weiss Schwarz are something that's like really good for new players, and being able to know which trial decks you can combine like 2 or 3 of to make a competitive, viable deck is pretty good knowledge. So this was Top Tier Gaming. I hope you enjoyed. Subscribe, like, bye YouTube.